The Beatles were known for using a wide variety of instruments throughout their career, especially guitars. They play brands like Gibson, Rickenbacker, Gretsch, Hofner, but in this video I want to focus on one brand that isn't often associated with their early years, Fender. More specifically, their connection with the Stratocaster. We know more about the Fenders they used after '67, like George Telecaster or the Fender 6 bass played by both him and John. But today I want to tell about a couple of much more mysterious guitars. Actually, the first one interested in Fender was George. He once said he really liked the Stratocaster model when the band was just starting out, but he couldn't afford one because they were too expensive. So during the early years in Hamburg, we saw him with a guitar that looked like a somber Stratocaster, but it wasn't. It was actually a Fudorama. This guitar was originally made in Czechoslovakia under the name Resonant. The specific model was the Gracioso Model 1. Later, it was distributed in the UK by Selmer and renamed Futurama. Interestingly, years later, Paul will use a Selmer amp during the Sgt. Pepper sessions in 1967, but it doesn't matter. George used the Futurama Gracioso as his main guitar from 1959 until he got his iconic Gretsch Duo Jet in 1961. By February '65, during the early help sessions, both John and George had been using the Rickenbackers and Gretsch. They wanted to try a different sound and asked to get a 2 Stratocaster to use in the studio. Their manager Brian Epstein agreed, but only if they were the exact same model and color. So Mal Evans went out looking and found 2 1961 Sonic Blue Stratocasters at Greenwood's, a shop in Winstable, England. At that time, Fender guitars weren't easy to find in the UK due to poor distribution, so maybe that's why they found them in a more remote shop. These guitars made their debut on Ticket to Ride, bringing a new sound, brighter and more defined. They were also used on You're Gonna Lose That Girl, Another Girl, It's Only Love and Tell Me What You See, adding a fresh texture that helped renew the band's style. They kept using them on Rubber Soul, where the Stratocaster sound was key. On Nowhere Man, for example, John and George recorded matching guitar harmonies with their Strats, giving the track a unique tone and helping define the album's new creative direction. George kept using his Blue Strat a lot, and we even see it with John during the Sgt. Pepper sessions. For reasons unknown, John stopped using his Strat after the Michelle sessions, and it never showed up in photos again. But interestingly, near the end of '65, we saw him with a very different Strat. It's believed John got his black Stratocaster, probably a '64 model, late in '65, during the River Soul sessions. This wasn't one of the Sonic Blue ones that Mal Evans bought, but a separate, more mysterious guitar. It first appears in photos from November '65 during a rehearsal at Donmar Warehouse in London. You can clearly see John holding the black Strat, even with the headstock painted black. They say John used it as a backup for his Rickenbacker during the UK tour in December '65, and even though there's no photographic evidence of him playing it live, there are pictures of their guitar used during that tour, and among them is the black Stratocaster. In a photo taken on April 14, '66, during the Paperback Writer sessions, the black Strat is seen in a studio closet with a small paper taped to it. Probably a set list from that tour, so maybe he did use it live, or at least had it ready just in case. We know George used his Sonic Blue Strat on several Revolver tracks. Curiously, though, the only Stratocaster that appears in photos from those sessions is John's black one. There's no confirmed recording where it was used, but it shows up in various studio pictures. For example, it's seen leaning against an amp next to what looks like Epiphone Casino, or maybe George Gibson SG. It's likely that Strat was used for the fuzz guitar part in the second version of that song.
And it's called Rocky.
As I mentioned earlier, George was still using his Sonic Blue Strat in '67 during the Sgt. Pepper sessions. At that point, it still had its original color, but on June 25 during the historic live broadcast of All You Need Is Love, we saw that the guitar was already painted its psychedelic colors. That's how the famous Rocky Stratocaster was born. Most of the artwork was already on that day. Later, during the Magical Mystery Tour, he kept adding more colors and details. By '69, it had reached its final version. In the Get Back documentary, we see it unfinished during early rehearsals. On January 27, '69, it looks like the same as '67. But the next day, January 28, new elements appear. Words like Go Cat Go on the pickguard, Viva Balula, an home symbol, and even a yellow drawing of Eric Clapton's head on the headstock. It's very likely that George finished customizing it at the same day. That's how a Sonic Blue Fender turned into one of the most iconic guitars in rock history, thanks to George Harrison's taste, art, and creativity. If you like it, don't forget to leave a like, share it, and leave your thoughts in the comments. In the description, I'll be leaving a list of the songs I believe were recorded with these guitars. Thanks.